Hello and good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you. Ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything to get my mind off this storm, man. We've been hit hard. Woo!
You know, you've been in my prayers, my buddy. You've really been in my prayers watching this. Here they are, all yours till 39.
Good morning, you two. How are you doing?
We're great. How about you?
I'm excited to talk with you guys because I think that one of the things that I vibed with when I tapped into your podcast was the fact that you're doing something that a lot of people aren't doing, and that is talking about politics. And because most people will yell about politics, they'll run away from politics, but you guys just talk.
I think that's true, and thanks. But I would put it a slightly different way. What we're talking about is character.
Ooh.
We're trying to tell this incredible story. And this is the story that will be, years from now, 20 years from now, when we talk to our grandchildren, this will be the story of our time. It will be like our World War II.
Yeah.
And to begin to tell that story, to begin to be able to have some distance from it and to have some notion of the story dynamics, of the character dynamics, rather than the political sides, is what we're trying to do here.
See, that's every bit the reason why I'm a daily writer, because my parents didn't leave me anything to read, and I just want to give something to the future, because there's going to come a day when people are going to say, what happened on 9/11? Oh, let me give you my daily writing. You go ahead and you spend some time studying this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, this is all I seem to do is write about Donald Trump. So I'm leaving a lot to my children on that front.
James, I would love to see a book if we all sat down and we wrote a story just to find out everybody's interpretation.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Michael's 3 books have given us such a window into Trump, and I believe there's a 4th on the way, Michael, that will be coming out around the election.
One of the things that you both of you talk about is the fact that you're not afraid to talk about the potential of there being some jail time here.
There's the potential. One of the interesting things about this story is that we have seen is that there is a potential for everything. Mm-hmm. It's almost, you cannot imagine. I mean, that is the course of this race, the course of Donald Trump's political career, is that it lurches from one thing that you would not have been able to imagine in a normal world to another thing that you would not have been able to imagine.
Wow. James, do you think at any other time in history, has there been somebody that has broken up families and friends more than Donald Trump?
I've often tried to think of that question. I mean, obviously you had the American Civil War where families were divided and fighting against each other, literally. I've not found the equivalent in contemporary politics of someone who can divide such strong bonds as family. No.
Wow. Michael, what about the lack of the First Lady being at his side? I can't imagine what you're locating with your research.
Well, I would say that is one of the most unasked, one of the most important and unasked and unanswered questions of this campaign. Where is Melania? Mm-hmm. She has made not one campaign appearance in 18 months. She has not shown up at any of his multitude at this point of court appearances, and she showed up at the convention only on the last possible moment. And then my understanding from what I hear is she refused to appear in the VIP box when her husband was there. How do we read this? This is, and it's interesting that the media has really shied away from asking this question. I think most of the people I know who were involved with covering the Trump White House when he was the president were perfectly aware that she spent very little time at the White House. Since then, equally, if you have paid any attention to Donald Trump's life at Mar-a-Lago, the things that stands out is that she spends very little time there. Now, I don't think that this is a hostile relationship. As a matter of fact, I had dinner with them together at Mar-a-Lago. And at the same table, they didn't talk to each other. They kind of talked to people. It was like the wedding party, and people kept coming up to them. But she certainly was there. But then she spends there long periods of time when she's not there. So I think we have a marriage. Trump, who has somehow tried to construct this identity, a weird identity under the circumstances of family values. Every man has the most exceptional marriage in America.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of Vinnie Barbarino on Welcome Back, Kotter. What? Where? When? I mean, it's like things happen, and then he doesn't want to face his challenges or face anything that is the truth.
Well, Donald Trump does what works for him, and it really does work. We all stand back and think, what is going on here? How could he ever do that? How could anyone vote for him? What explains this? And we don't know, except for the fact that what we can say, it has worked in a way that no one ever has imagined something like this could work. Which is what we're trying to do on this weekly basis. Every week return to what did he do this
yes.
week? What's the significance of that? What's the meaning of this? What is, how can you figure out what he's really trying to do? And does he know what he's really trying to do?
When you host a podcast like this, let's turn the hands of time forward. It's not that I feel something inside my heart. They're going to come after the podcasters. Our freedom to speak is going to be shut down because of the honesty that we're trying to share and how we're trying to reach out there. Do you ever think about that?
Well, I've had some experience with this. When I wrote my first book, Fire and Fury, the president of the United States, then Donald Trump, came after me, threatened me, tried to sue me, tried to prevent the publication of the book. And all this had the effect of helping me sell millions of copies, frankly. And you would have thought I would have been Donald Trump's worst enemy. And perhaps I was Donald Trump's worst enemy. But then when it came time to do another book, and I know this from someone on his staff, someone went to him and said, "Hey, he was out of office then. He said, I hear Michael Wolff is going to write another book." And Trump immediately said, "Oh, that guy gets ratings. Let's have him down to Mar-a-Lago."
Of course.
Suddenly I got an invitation to have dinner with Trump and Melania.
Mm-hmm. James, how do you explain the Rupert Murdoch, Donald Trump love-hate war?
Well, I would actually, since Michael has written about both Rupert Murdoch and Donald Trump, I feel I'm in the presence of a greater expert. So I'm going to throw that one back to Michael.
I think I truly am the expert here. And as a matter of fact, and I will do a story from some time ago. This was when I was writing my biography of Rupert Murdoch, and I kind of spent a year with Murdoch. And one morning I went to Murdoch's apartment to have breakfast with him. And Murdoch at that time was living in a Trump building. It was the building, in fact, where Ivanka and Jared Kushner lived. And Rupert and I had our conversation, lasted for an hour or so, and then we both left together, and we were on the elevator, and the elevator is going down, then it stops and doors open, and Donald Trump gets on. So I am on an elevator with Rupert Murdoch and Donald Trump. And Rupert Murdoch says, says something to Donald Trump, a set of just pleasantries, and Rupert has an incredible mumble, and he has this heavy Australian accent, and Trump turns to me at that point and he says, "Do you ever understand anything he says?" So I at that moment, the two characters of my life were united. But it has been Fox News helped make Donald Trump for the past since after January 6th. Rupert Murdoch has set out to try to break Donald Trump. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, Rupert Murdoch really invented Ron DeSantis as a national candidate.
Right.
Fox was instructed to keep Murdoch, to keep Trump off the air. But they're now very much back again. And, Rupert Murdoch, 93-year-old Rupert Murdoch, was one of the people who Trump saw before his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention.
Wow. James, has the game changed when it comes to the new challenger on the other side, on the Democratic Party, in the way that, right away, Trump went after with racism and saying things, and he went after Tim really, really hard. But, the game is changing, but it's still the same old Trump.
Well, that's right. And if you keep lobbying exactly the same insults at everyone who comes along, it's the crying wolf. Suddenly they seem, less effective and less impressive. So I felt that Trump's response after Wolff was introduced in Pennsylvania was so rote, so routine, that it began to feel feeble in a way that you don't expect of Trump. And obviously he's going to have to up his game, other than going back to, the same old litany of cliches.
Wow. So now, Michael, do you think he's going to show up at the Olympics? We're talking about a man who loves global love, and I just feel like that he hasn't been there yet. Why has he not done that?
Well, he is running for the president of the United States, which is hard to do in France. Number one, but also this is an incredibly fraught moment in this campaign. I don't know if that's if I don't know exactly how they're going to approach this situation with two new people to run against a wholly configured race. Now, it might be a good idea. Trump is, what Trump has to do is capture the headlines again. Would it be a good idea to go to Paris? Maybe I will pass along your suggestion.
So, James,
and then if that works and he wins, you'll be to blame.
Oh God, no! Don't do that to me. James, do you sit back and think, those damn crazy Americans, will they ever get their act together?
Well, I've lived here since I was 21, so I spent 10 years bemused by crazy Americans, then slowly came to accept that I was becoming one of them, because I look at the English now and I think, whoa, there's crazy English.
Michael, would you like to be a fly on the wall while Donald Trump watches the Democratic convention?
I think that I will likely be a fly on the wall when he watches the Democratic convention. So I will let you know how that turns out.
See, I would be in there taking every freaking note that I could get, because I would love to document everything that goes on. I'm such a freak when it comes to writing stuff down.
Well, one of the things when you do what I do is that you can't be obvious about what you're writing down.
Okay.
So this is an act of memory, and also it's just good to go to the bathroom a lot.
What have you learned from all of this, James?
From the podcast with Michael, Well, I'll answer that obliquely. And in the one we recorded yesterday, I asked Michael, since Trump is clearly in search of a solution, I said, Michael, you know him well and you know politics well. What would you tell him to do? And I felt Michael came up with a very interesting answer. He said, well, I might have the answer to that, but I'm not sure I would tell it to Donald Trump. So I think, with our podcast, we're speculating about what he can and should do better, but we are also alert and alarmed by the ways that this might go.
The two of you on this podcast, what you do is you create awareness. We all assume that we know, but then when we tune into this podcast, you allow us to truly know what's going on.
I think that's what I've tried to do in the three books that I've written to date about Trump is, there is what we know because we see it on television and we read the newspapers, and then there's a whole other layer of nuance and motivation and again Tim Walls's word, which I think is an incredibly useful one, weirdness. Political reporters, and that's who writes about Trump, can't say about a politician, he's crazy. That's the answer. Why is he doing this? He's crazy. They can't say that. They have to write in the political terms of cause and effect. Now, I don't come to this. I've written a lot about politics, but I am not per se a political reporter. I'm a magazine writer who has written about a lot of broad subjects, but also who's fundamentally interested in character, what makes a person tick. And so to come back, that's the point at which we're always coming back to, not from a political point of view, but from a character point of view. And I think that's what's really necessary to understand this guy.
Yeah, but Michael, don't you think his character is changing our character, and I fear for those in the future?
Well, I mean, his character is certainly changing the how we see politics and how we see the variables and the alternatives of politics. Politics used to be a fairly one-dimensional game up until Donald Trump. And now it's, we don't know what it is. We literally don't know what it is anymore. We don't know the motivations. We don't know, the cause and effect assumptions, all thrown out the door. And that's that's one of the things that's scary, certainly scary to political reporters, and scary to a good part of the country. And for another country, it's a breath of fresh. Another part of the country, it's a breath of fresh air.
Wow. I'm so proud of you guys for doing this podcast, because when each episode drops, I'm going, yes, I get to be with my guys. These are my guys. They're speaking my street.
Thank you so much.
Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Great. Thanks so much.
That's great. Thank you.
Be brilliant, you two, okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Arrow, you there today?
Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, we're getting the hell beat out of us,
Arrow?
though.
You're on mute, Arrow.
There we go.
There we go. How's everything down there today?
Oh my, we've been spanked really hard. We had the alarms were going off at 5:00 this morning, and so the got some flooding in the forest. I'll go out there later on and check and find out how many trees I lost.
Oh man, sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's the Carolinas.
Mother Nature's crazy. Yeah,
right.
she's going crazy this year, and there's a lot more to come. So
Absolutely.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. But all right, my friend, take it away. You got 9 minutes with Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to thank you for this book, because I still believe that the majority of us have no idea what AI technology is, and yet you can go to Google and it says right there, it says it's using AI technology to help us out.
Yeah, I mean, AI is in a lot of things without us even realizing it, and it's going to be even more places going forward. And I wrote the book to really give people who aren't technical people some sense of what is this technology and how to think about all the effects it might have on us and on society and on our jobs, across the board.
I'm glad you said the effects on us, because I fear it's going to make us lazy. What's your inside?
Yeah, that's one of my big fears also. And it's one of the dangers I really do point to in the book. And it's a danger I don't think's gotten enough attention. I think this technology will work pretty well in the future most of the time. And when something works pretty well most of the time, we tend to use it and we tend to get very lazy about it. And I think we've already seen with social media how addictive, things that like this can be. And I worry we're just going to become very good at outsourcing a lot of the thinking that we really should reserve for ourselves to AI chatbots and to digital assistants. And I think that's a real danger. I worry that people will kind of surrender their critical thinking abilities. I worry that they will stop writing altogether. And I think one of the dangers of this technology is it encourages a belief that writing and thinking are kind of completely separate activities, that you can just, I'll think of a few bullet points and I'll give it to the AI assistant and I'll just have it write for me, my essay, or I'll have it write the business document I need written, or I'll have it write this legal brief. And I think that's potentially really dangerous, because it's through writing very often that we refine our thinking, that we find the holes in our argument. So I think, having this always do our writing for us is also dangerous. I think there's a lot of areas where, we could get really lazy. Also, a lot of people are already using AI systems and chatbots as kind of companions. And I worry that people will find it, very easy to have this kind of companion chatbot that you have a relationship with, you can have this dialogue with, and it's so easy because unlike a real person, it makes no demands of us. It has no real needs or desires that need fulfilling, and it's going to be a lot easier than a relationship with your real human family or your friend or your partner or your spouse. And I worry that some people will choose this actually over real human relationships. So that's another danger. Again, I think it's a kind of laziness that real human relationships take work, and potentially a relationship with a chatbot's going to take a lot less work.
I want my dog to talk to me. I don't care about AI. I just want my dog to talk to
me. Yeah, that would be great. I would love if my dog could talk to me too.
So one of the things that really kind of about AI technology, first of all, I praise you on the writing, because I'm a daily writer. I've been doing it for 30 years. But what I do is I handwrite everything. I knew the computer generation would change the way that people write, but I have to handwrite everything. And you're exactly right. When people stop writing things, they stop using their head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think not enough people realize that. And there are a lot of people out there who say, I hate writing because it's hard. And it's hard because it involves thinking. But I always, one of the things I advocate in the book is it's very easy. And a lot of people say, have the AI system write a first draft and you kind of act as the editor. And then actually sometimes people are very dissatisfied. It didn't do a good job. I could have done a better job myself, or it took me too long to edit it. But actually, I encourage people to do it the other way around. And you always write the first draft, because that's where the hard thinking is. And that's where you can help refine your arguments. The human should do the first draft. Then you actually give that draft to the AI and have it act as an editor and critique that for you. I actually think that's a much better way to use the technology, because it both tends to do a better job in that role as kind of the editor or critiquer, but also you avoid the danger of de-skilling that way.
I got to praise some AI technology here too, because I recently was injured pretty badly on my rotator cuff, and the doctor said surgery, and this AI technology that I've got has been giving me all these different exercises to do, and I've got control of my arm again. So I've got to praise it as well. So it's helping out in the medical world as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And one of the areas where I really think it will supercharge things and make things better is in medicine. The potential for more precision medicine, more personalized medicine is tremendous. And then also, I think we're going to see AI used for a lot of drug discovery. So we're actually going to have new treatments and new medicines come on the market, potentially at much lower cost, because it will shorten. There's part of the drug discovery process that is you're never going to be able to get around, which is human clinical testing. That's very important for safety and for efficacy. But there's a lot of steps before it gets to human clinical trials where a lot of drugs fail and that take a lot of time and a lot of money, and potentially AI shortens that process tremendously. So that could actually get us better medicines faster and cheaper.
So this recent stock market fall, any of that connected to AI, or is this something that maybe we can use in the future so we don't fall so fast?
Yeah, well, people are using AI in trading systems. I don't think you could attribute this recent fall to AI. I think there were a whole bunch of things. The only except that there was a lot of hype around AI technology, and that's why a lot of these companies had been bid up to, I think, unsustainable valuations. I think, frankly, people were looking for reasons to take profits and to sell, and you had a variety of factors kind of come together that led people to try to jump out of these stocks. And if you look, some of them have bounced back. I think the technology is very real. Does that mean that Nvidia should be worth $3 trillion as it was last week before the recent market correction? I'm not so sure. That's a whole different question. But do I think the technology will be transformative and real over the longer term? Yes, I do.
One of the things that brings a lot of fear into my heart when it comes to entertainment, acting, as well as Drake redoing everybody else's voices, such as Tupac.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's a concern. I think it's definitely a double-edged sword when it comes to creativity. There are going to be challenges here. But on the other hand, there's potential to really unleash a lot of human creativity. There's a potential to use this technology alongside human creative processes as a tool for human creativity in really interesting ways. And I talked to visual artists in the book. I talked to a number of authors in the book. I talked to musicians in the book who are using AI as part of their creative process and doing really amazing things. Yeah. But it always involves quite a lot of human input alongside what the AI does. These are not people who are just prompting it, with a couple lines of text and having it do all the work. This is a case where you might do that as an initial step, but there's quite a lot of post-editing. There's quite a lot of combination with human-created stuff going on. But yes, I think there's going to be tension. I think actors are going to have to safeguard, their images. And I think we saw this strike last year between the screen actors and the Hollywood studios. I think that's just a prelude to further battles over AI technology and who owns the actor's likeness and their voice over the long term. And I think the studios are going to want to try to go for a power grab and say they own the right to those performances. And I think some of it will come down to leverage. So the biggest stars will have enough leverage to say no. But if you're a starting out actor, it's going to be a lot harder to say no to because you're not going to get any work otherwise if they're insisting on this. And that's why I think there will be tension. There may be more strikes in the future over this. Wow.
Was it clickbait yesterday when I read the story about Elon Musk and putting fake commercials on X because through chat box?
No, I mean, I don't think that was, fake news. I think Elon, he's been fighting this war with the advertising community over X. And I think he's taken various steps to try to undercut the advertisers, including perhaps, using AI to create fake ads. But it's, I don't know. I mean, Elon's got this interesting thing going on with X and the advertisers. So AI may play part of that. Elon's a big fan of using AI, of course.
Dude, if AI technology is as perfect as they say, then why is it? One day there could be an AI human figure that becomes president of the United States, and it's not even real.
Maybe we should take steps to prevent that from happening. Right? I would say we should, but yeah, there was a candidate actually in the UK. I happen to live in the UK, and there was a candidate in the UK. He was a human candidate, but he said he would kind of act on behalf of AI and just implement what its decisions were. And the way it worked is it would take feedback from people through social media on what the policy should be, and it would kind of aggregate that information and come up with a kind of consensus view on what the policy should be. And then it would output that consensus view to this person who said if he was elected, he would simply vote whichever way the AI system was telling him to vote. That guy actually, he didn't win, luckily, but if he had, I think that would have been a very interesting moment to see. But I'm not sure we should allow this. I do think, and in the book, a lot of the book, I make a plea for trying to make sure that processes where we really want people to be acting on lived experience, human experience, that we not surrender this to AI systems, because no AI system is ever going to have any lived experience. And I would actually say that politics is one of those areas where you really want your representatives, well, at least in a democracy, you want your representative to know where you're coming from and to actually have lived experience that somehow and empathy for the constituents that he is or she is representing. And you don't want AI to out there necessarily taking on that role, because that AI is never going to have real empathy. It can have kind of simulated empathy. It can say things that sound empathetic, but that's never. It's always going to be false. And I think that's a real risk. And I think we should avoid situations like that. We should not be putting these systems in places where they're kind of pretending to have empathy. Where what we really want is genuine, authentic empathy.
Yeah, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Jeremy. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, great! Thanks so much, Arrow.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Absolutely, you too.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Excellent. I should have her here ready for you in about 20 seconds or so. If I can just have you out by 14 after.
Let me write that in big numbers here. 14. Okay, thank you.
Copy. All right, thank you.
You are speaking to Arrow, like bow and arrow. He's going to take about 7 minutes. I think you've chatted with him before. We're going to go ahead, open your mic, and go ahead and say hi to Arrow so he knows he has you.
Hey, Arrow.
Hello and good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm so excited to chat with you again.
Oh, my God. It's because of you that I find so much love inside the kitchen. In fact, what I've done is I've created what I call a couples challenge where my wife and I are in the kitchen as chefs, and we've got to make everything work. And it's because of you.
I love it so much. This makes me so happy. You just made my day. Totally made my day.
Well, what you're doing on The Great Recipe is, you're taking everyday people. These are people that are cooking in their own homes, and you're giving them that opportunity to be seen.
Exactly. You nailed it. We have these amazing home cooks, and it's about representation, right? Like, it's about putting real life home cooks on, in this beautiful platform to share not just their dishes and the recipes, but also the stories behind them and the context behind them, because all of that together is part of the fabric of what American food is and American cuisine.
See, I love the fact that you talk about the stories, because every dish has a story. And one of the things that inspires me when I'm watching the show is I'll go to Google and I'll say, okay, they did this on this recipe on this show. I got to know, how do I do this? Because I want to cook it at home to see if I can have the same experience.
I love that you do that, because I think the show really is so much about education, and it's about sharing not just how to cook, but why we cook, right? And what is it that makes that food so special and those ingredients so special. And we're really showcasing that. And I learned so much. The judges learned so much. We've tried things that we've never tried before. We learn new cooking techniques, and it really is just this sort of interactive experience. It's like the food itself is so important, but it's nothing without the people behind it and the stories behind it. And I love that our show allows the space for us to really celebrate that and to recognize that.
Well, you're in Nashville this season. Oh, I'm in the South as well. We cook really differently in this area of the woods.
I love Nashville and I love Southern cooking. I'm a New Yorker, but I love it. And yeah, it's been such a great experience. We're back. We're in this beautiful new barn. This place called Green Door Gourmet. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is my first time in Nashville, and I'm such a big fan now. And I think it's just really great to, the food is not just Southern food, because our cooks are from all over the country. But I think just being in that environment, it feeds into what we're making. I mean, the food, the ingredients that they're cooking with are literally from the area. So, it's just such a beautiful way to kind of showcase.
One of the things that your show really inspires us to do is that you will take chances with foods from other countries, and that's when we go to the Super G here in Charlotte, because it's a world market of all foods, and it's because of shows like yours that we explore those aisles and bring new tastes inside the house.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is American food just sort of gets dismissed as being just burgers, pizza, right? And people think it's so simple. But if this is a nation of immigrants, and this is a nation of people from all over the world, and it's such a huge, diverse country in terms of the environment and its region, right? And it's California and Miami and Vermont, these are completely different areas, and they grow different things, and they have different cuisines, and all of that together is part of what we eat. So yeah, we're celebrating all of that. The dishes come from all over the country, all over the world, and together they make up American food.
I tell you one thing I would love to see on the show sometime, only because I'm such a realist. I would love to see cleaning up afterwards. I want to see people washing their dishes, because I think that's part of the story as well. The conversation continues.
I love that. I mean, I won't be doing any of the dishwashing. I don't even do it in my own house. My husband handles my dishwashing. I cook, he cleans. But yeah, I mean, it is part of it. It is funny though, because sometimes I don't think it ends up in the final shot, but sometimes they'll be kind of running in between, especially if they're using a blender and they have to reuse it for something else. They'll go and they rinse it out. That is part of the process. But we give them a little help with the cleaning, because we want them to focus on the food.
Is there ever a situation where your eyes think it knows what the taste is going to be? The palate says a different story once you taste it.
Absolutely. I mean, that is, yeah, for sure. Especially with some ingredients that are new to us. So yeah, there absolutely are these moments where we're trying dishes that are completely new. And so you don't really know what you're getting into. You look at it and you have an idea, and then you taste it and you're like, whoa, this is, it may look really plain, and then it's just this explosion of flavor in your mouth. And then not only that, but once we hear the story, right? Once we hear the story behind it, it almost like opens it up even more. It's like when you go to the eye doctor, they're like, which is better, A or B, A or B? Yeah, it just kind of like brings it all into focus.
What have you personally learned from all of these chefs from across the country? Because we're all coming from different regions.
Oh my gosh, I think I've learned so much. And I think one of the things that is so exciting about the show is that just being in that environment, even if you're not making a specific recipe that they made, the techniques or the ingredients have a way of sort of informing my cooking. My dog's joining the conversation here. But yeah, so it all kind of takes part in what we're doing here. And it's like, I'll be cooking in the kitchen and I'll be using an ingredient, and then I'm suddenly thinking, oh, this is like the ginger that Ajo was using in her recipe.
Yes.
Or if I'm cutting, cutting a lemon, I'm like, oh, I remember how they cut it in this way. And then you kind of put a little bits of that into your own cooking. So it's not necessarily about following the exact recipe from A to Z, but sometimes it may just be taking a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and bringing that all together.
Wow. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh my gosh, I will be there, and I'll probably bring my dog Jojo with me.
I love it. My dog Jazzy is right behind me, so hey, it's family.
Family.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.